Hey guys, it's your boy Davion. Welcome to another episode of Consciouztv. We're here to do a review for Season 9, Episode 4 for Iyanla Fix My Life. You guys already know to make sure to rate, comment, share, and subscribe. You also can donate to the show by PayPaling me at paypal.me/Consciouztv, or you guys can cash at me at $Consciouztv. And of course, you can always email me any of your questions, suggestions, feedback, or anything personal you want to share with me at consciouztv@gmail.com. Let's get into this review. So of course I want to welcome all of my new subscribers, and before we get any further, I definitely want to thank Dolores for your Cash App donation. You guys know that since I don't do super chat, that I have to shout you guys out in my videos. So thank you, Dolores, for your donation. It made my day. It was touching as always. And I just am not going to ever get over getting donations of any kind. I don't give a damn whether it's $1 or $5. I just think it's really crazy that you guys insist upon giving me money. But if that makes you happy, then it makes me motherfucking happy, and I put that coin to good fucking use. So thank you, Dolores. Now, this episode of Iyanla Fix My Life was another really interesting and very intense episode of Iyanla. There has been a common theme so far of sexual abuse, especially amongst the black family. I know that sexual abuse and molestation and rape happens in all families, regardless of nationality, regardless of culture, regardless of gender, regardless of what walk of life. Sexual abuse has always been one of the many dysfunctions that plagues families and societies. And seeing it show up so consistently on this particular season of Iyanla is really interesting for me, because sexual abuse is something that's really heavy in my own family. And even though I am not a victim of sexual abuse, my mother was, and some of my other relatives are. And so these type of episodes are really relatable, and they really touch home for me personally. Now, of course, I have my handy dandy notes here to help me with this episode. So let's just unpack this. We have mother and daughter. Cynthia is 31 years of age, and her mother is Monique, who is a 51-year-old woman. And man, it was really interesting to see how precise and exact both of their trauma, both of their sexual abuse was. I've never seen abuse so synchronistic. Like, we all are aware of generational curses and generational pathologies and abuses and traumas and ways of life that kind of go on from family to family, from generation to generation. But rarely do you see people of different generations within the same family experiencing literally the exact type of trauma at the exact age as one another. That just goes to show exactly what Iyanla said, and how much they mirror one another. And of course, these issues always start from the head down to the tail, they trickle. So both mom and daughter were molested by the same person at the age of 6. Monique grew up in what really appears to be a dysfunctional household by a unconscious mother herself. Kind of gives me the impression that her mom was on the dictating, controlling, do as I say, emotionally unavailable, hard up type of mother. A lot of people from a certain era of time had a very hard way of parenting. The way that our grandparents parented our parents more so was from a place of authority and not a place of relationship. Our parents, and of course our generation of parents, we're trying to break that cycle of not only being a role model and being the authoritative figure within our children's lives, but we're also trying to develop relationship and friendship, and trying to create a household where our children feel safe, they feel emotionally supported, and they feel safe being vulnerable and communicative to us. So that is something, though, that you didn't find a lot in the older generation. I know my mom used to tell me how, you know, in her household, my granddaddy, you know, ran the house, and he ran the house with the iron fist, and you didn't ask no questions, and you didn't give your opinion, and you did what you was told, and there was no consulting you, and there was no you consulting the parent. Parents had this, I work, I pay bills, get good grades, be successful, shut up and stay out of trouble, and they simplify life that way for their children, which can be really, really, really dangerous. That we think that all children are experiencing is having to go to school and having to make good grades, as if children aren't entire human beings who get exposed to other human beings, and all types of information and experiences are exchanged between those children and who they're coming into contact with, whether that's other children or other adults, both within the family and outside of the family. So we need to really get that shit out of our head, that the only thing you need to concern yourself about as a parent is ensuring that your child makes good grades. You better be investigating your children and studying your children and communicating with your children and supervising your fucking children, and not just telling them what to do, but asking them, are you okay? Is there anything you would like to talk to me about? You know, what happened when you went over to grandpa's house this weekend? What happened when you went over to cousin so-and-so's this house? And a successful response to those questions don't just come with you simply asking the right question. You really have to create an atmosphere between you and your child where your child feels safe, because if you spend a lot of your time being emotionally unavailable, yelling at your kids, critiquing your children, giving them orders, making them feel like robots and fucking soldiers and slaves and servants instead of actual people that you're really deeply concerned about, then it doesn't matter if you ask them the right questions when you need to, because the relationship won't be there to make them answer those questions honestly and truthfully. So in order to create transparency, first, they need to see you modeling that transparency. You need to be somebody who communicates honestly, tells the fucking truth, model that for your children, and then the relationship you have to your children needs to be one where they feel human, and like I said, they feel supported. And it means that mommy and daddy is always showing loving concern, taking time out to talk to the kids, and making sure that your child knows that they can say something to you that may be difficult or challenging, or that may even make them feel afraid, but that mommy and daddy will always listen, and they do not have to be afraid of you as their parents. That is really, really, really fucking important in parenting. Monique grew up to be a dysfunctional adult, had her child also out of wedlock, then got into some problematic behavior that led her to having to be in prison. This then made her an absent mother, and her daughter Cynthia then ended up spending some time being raised by her grandmother before her grandmother felt like she couldn't handle it anymore, and then gave Cynthia over to the foster care system. Another heartbreaking story, because we know that in the last episode, Nicole was given up by her narcissistic mother for adoption as well. And so it's just really always heartbreaking when children are estranged from the entire family. You know, it's one thing for you to be raised by an aunt, a cousin, an uncle, a grandparent, because at least you still get the experience of your own tribe. But it's a whole nother level of abandonment and rejection when you are given away and you're put aside from that tribe and given to some foreign people, to some foreign family. And not foreign as in immigrants, but foreign in terms of you don't know these people, you didn't come from these people, but yet these people are in possession of you. I can imagine the level of abandonment and rejection and isolation and loneliness, and how deprived one's own self-esteem would be when it comes to experiencing rejection on that magnitude. I mean, hoes get their self-esteem completely obliterated just by being rejected in a relationship by a man or a fucking woman. So just imagine, you know, not only having to grow up and go through regular smuggler rejection from your peers, from people who you thought was friends who later turned their backs on you, having to go through the regular rigmarole in relationships, but your backstory also is one filled with rejection that happened in your childhood. And so all these other experiences that even healthy regular people are going to have in terms of reasonable rejection and learning how to cultivate a healthy self-esteem for one's own self is going to be really fucking challenged, because you already have a strong precedent for abandonment. You already have a strong precedent for rejection due to your past and due to your childhood. And so that rejection is consistently reinforced. And so then we see Cynthia and Monica both just surrendering and admitting to the rage they feel and how they hate themselves and they hate their fucking lives and how they just want to hurt other people the way that they've been hurt. Now that was a really powerful testimony of truth, because we all hear the old saying, hurt people, and this was a accurate and proper illustration of hurt people hurting people. You know, so oftentimes when people hurt us, we look at them as the demon and as the monster and as the fraud, as the liar, as the cheater, as the abuser, as the A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And while their behavior is fraudulent and their behavior is manipulative and their behavior is deceptive, 95% of the time are products of liars, cheaters, abusers, rejectors, and people who did not adhere to their responsibilities either. These people who are hurting other people have been hurt and abandoned and rejected by other people as well. And you know, Cynthia's dysfunction was really terrible because she experienced a lot of heavy shit early on in her childhood. Not only was she molested at 6 years old, but she ended up getting pregnant at 12 years old. But then she ended up paying for the abortion of that child through prostitution. And Monique was really open about the fact that she didn't love herself. And when you don't love yourself, you don't have those healthy boundaries and barriers established in your life that come through the practice of self-love, because the self-love isn't there. And self-love creates barriers of wisdom. Self-love establishes these grounds and parameters of what is honoring myself and dishonoring myself. But when you don't have that level of love for yourself, or you don't have love for yourself at all, you're in a free fall in life. And that's why you find a lot of people who don't love themselves thinking so lowly of themselves that they will try to make friends with people who don't have their best interests at heart. They're not able to be discerning of who truly roots for them and who's just using them and exploiting them. You see people who don't love themselves dishonor themselves through promiscuity, through just loving on the first person who comes in, showing them some affection, even if that affection and love is completely superficial and convoluted. You see this lack of discernment and this lack of really inspecting the people that that person is manifesting in their life, because they don't have the self-love that tells them to be cautious, to be observant, to rightfully discern good from bad, right from wrong, healthy from fucking unhealthy. So this self-love thing is something that we as people have to get down. And all of us have been through enough shit in our life to have our self-esteem rocked, to have our values shaped and shifted and molded into something that does not look holistic, that does not look organic. Life is very difficult as a human being, especially when you've been raised by other unconscious identity crisis as individuals who were adhering to ways and systems that do not support one's higher self, and they're raising you from that unconscious place. And you're being shaped in that fucking unconsciousness. And so then you get a society, you get a community, you get a world of people who don't know who the fuck they are, don't know how to show up for themselves, therefore don't know how to show up for you. And then here it is, we have dysfunctional relationships, dysfunctional family ships, dysfunctionality just ripping all up and through our fucking lives in every single way. And this unconsciousness does not just bleed out into who we're choosing as lovers and how we're relating to sex in our bodies, but it's literally within everything. It's in not holding other people accountable, allowing the pastor to get away with anything, allowing people to sucker us out of our money, out of our fucking resources, not being able to discern when somebody is playing off of our vulnerability and our naivety, you know. And there are people who literally are blind to these things. They literally cannot see when somebody is abusing them and taking advantage of them, because that's what unconsciousness is. Being a unconscious person is equivalent to being fucking asleep or drunk behind the wheel of your fucking life. And when you're not awake, not only are you going to hurt other people, you're going to hurt yourself in the process. So Cynthia and Monique never knew each other's story. Even though they both are well into age, Monique is a 31-year-old woman, Cynthia is a 50-year-old woman. They've never communicated their truth to each other. Cynthia never communicated it to any fucking body. It is really important that we all have a support system in our life, whether that's one person, 3 people, 20 fucking people. I don't care who it's in the form of, whether it's in the form of grandmama, it's in the form of a good cousin, it's in the form of a best friend, it's in the form of your spouse. Wherever you're able to get healthy support from, it's important that you have spaces and people in your life that you can let go in, that you can shed the ego, shed the defense mechanisms, and you can just stand in your hurt when you hurt. You can stand in your openness when you open. You can stand in your victimhood when you need to stand in your victimhood. We all have to have people who are going to allow us to cry on their shoulders, who are going to embrace us with a hug, who are just going to be a listening ear, who do not want to judge you, they don't want to correct you, but people who support you, giving yourself permission to just fall apart and then play an integral role in helping you to piece yourself back together. And also people who can tell us the fucking truth, people who we allow to tell us the fucking truth, because none of us can do this on our own, especially not when you are unconscious, and especially not when you are going from unconscious to consciousness. You need the positive reinforcement of truth, of reality, of factuality. So you have to have people, for one, who you allow to tell you the bona fide, ugly, dog, gritty, disgusting fucking truth about your situation and or about yourself. There has to be somebody who you're not willing to cuss out. If they tell you something difficult, you're not willing to stop being friends with them, or you're not willing to break up with them just because they've told you a truth about yourself. You got to at least give one person fucking permission in your life that can tell you the fucking truth without penalty and without consequence from you. So oftentimes, we all feel like we're on our own. And we feel like we're burdening other people by having issues, by having a bad day, by having a problem. And we don't want to burden anybody. More often than not, most of us act as such a pillar in the people's lives who we love that we almost feel uncomfortable needing to be supported ourselves. And we start making ourselves believe that we don't have a right to be weak because we're the ones who are always having to be strong. Strong for mommy, strong for the children, strong for the family, strong for the friends, strong for the boo, strong for the wife, strong for the husband. And when we get into these super save a whole ass modes, oftentimes that plays into our own demise because we don't afford ourselves to be supported the same way that we're supporting other people. And it leaves you in a state of feeling profoundly alone and isolated. And while you're here being a muscle for everybody else, you're here dealing with your own shit and suffering in complete and fucking silence. So it's important for everyone to have a support team. The therapist needs a damn therapist. The doctor needs a damn doctor. Something that was really powerful was Iyanla saying to Monique, you have to let yourself off the hook. And people, self-forgiveness is really important. Before we can forgive someone else, we have to first forgive ourselves. And if you're honest about your own story, and you're honest about what has happened to you, and you're honest about the events in your life, you are going to be able to be compassionate enough towards your own self to say, I have to let this me go, who was dysfunctional in this way, who fucked up my marriage in this way, who fucked up my relationship in this way, who fucked up my parenting in this way, who fucked up my life in this way because I didn't know better. I didn't know what I now know. And so because we don't know what we don't know when we're doing the things we don't know any better than to do, yes, we have to let that part of ourselves go. We have to be understanding and forgiving of ourselves. Like, you can't do better until you absolutely know better, and not even just know better until you are convicted about doing better. Because you can have knowledge of something but not have the heart to execute it, not have the emotional and mental maturity and discipline to reinforce what you know. So while I may know it's wrong to just be giving my body to anybody and to be selling my body at 12 years old, I don't have the emotional fortitude. I don't have the wherewithal and the bandwidth mentally, spiritually, or emotionally to sustain that higher thought. So I'm going to continue to lean into my lower nature, lean into my fucking lower self. So forgiving one's own self is a property of self-love, and it's also the pathway to change and transformation. And Iyanla saying, Monique, support your daughter first. Get you together secondly. That was real proper. When parents overreact at times where they're supposed to be present for the child will observe the parent's reaction and the extremity of the reaction, and they will feel like they've just done something bad, and then they will tell them, and then they will make themselves uncomfortable with communicating a truth to you again, because they don't ever want to see you bent out of shape that way. They don't ever want to see mommy fall apart that way. And so they'll think that they're doing you a favor by not sharing something with you that they need to share with you, because they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to afflict you. So parents, be very aware of yourself, of your body language, of your mannerisms when your child is communicating something to you. And even though you may be angry, you may be enraged, you may be heartbroken by what your child is telling you, it's important for you to stand tall in front of your child in that moment, and to wait until you're in the privacy of appropriate company or in the confinement of your own space to then have your own natural reaction fully. This episode ended really well. It ended with Cynthia forgiving her mother for basically not being around, by going to prison, by being an absent mom, because she was able to realize and to accept that her mom was a byproduct of her own dysfunctional upbringing, the way that she was too, and that they essentially were the same person, dealt very similar hands, and that acted as a strong catalyst for Cynthia to forgive her mother. Compassion and understanding is what helps to facilitate forgiveness. You know, being able to realize that this person is a product, you know, of their environment as well, is a product of their life experiences as well. And a lot of times when people are betraying us and hurting us and dogging us out and doing us wrong, as personal as it does feel, because it's happening to you, the betrayal is happening to you, so of course it feels personal. And because this person is in relationship to you and the covenant is being broken, whether that's a family covenant, a romantic covenant, a friendship covenant, a church covenant, whatever the covenant is, it's going to feel personal. But oftentimes it's not. People are just playing out their dysfunctionality, and those things are going to bleed out into their relationships, no matter what the context is. Romantic, agape, family, it doesn't really matter. If a person is dysfunctional and unconscious, that shit is going to show up. Cynthia did not challenge forgiving her mom. She heard her mom's story, she already knew what it was, and she just went ahead and said, girl, I forgive you, and they hugged it out and forgave each other. So this wraps up my review for episode 4 of season 9 of Iyanla Fix My Life. You guys definitely tell me what you guys think down below. Once again, don't forget to rate, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can keep up with all of my latest episodes. You have to do that every single time you watch a video. Hit that notification bell. You guys know that you can donate to the show at paypal.me/Consciouztv, and or you can cash app me. I finally got that cash app situation at $Consciouztv, and you guys can email me anything at consciouztv@gmail.com. I will see you guys in my next upload. Later.